ready for the showdown. Get ready for the showdown. Yo, it's about to go down. Yo, it's about to go down.
Hey guys, make sure to be at the Senior Sunset on May 27th at 6:30.
There will be baked bear and nostalgic coffee for sale, and free Chick-fil-A.
Safe and sober prom.
Make the promise to stay safe and sober this prom season.
Safety. Make sure to have a safe ride to and from prom. Have an emergency contact list on your phone. Make sure to have your phone with you and have it fully charged. Have the Uber or Lyft app on your phone. Have some emergency money to get home. Look out for each other and be a positive role model to others.
Sober. No alcohol, no drugs. Avoid any illegal activity. Have an excuse to leave if you are uncomfortable, and be aware of your surroundings.
Some phone numbers you can call are for emergencies 911, for poison control 800-222-2222, Access and Crisis Line 888-724-7240, and an anonymous tip line or sheriff is 858-565-5200. Have a great prom, be safe, and make this a memorable night.
Asian oppression has become rampant during the peak of the pandemic. We composed a curation of documentary photos taken by Asian American Pacific Islander photographers to illustrate the unity of the Asian Pacific community in America. We wish to raise awareness of social issues as well as appreciation for the numerous beautiful cultures found within the community in hopes to combat racial discrimination in America. Here is a collection of photos that have illustrated how Asian Pacific Americans have come together to celebrate cultural customs and also overcome the struggles of prejudice and other events that have impacted the community.
Corky Lee, born and raised in Queens, was a Chinese-American activist who documented the lives of Asian Americans in New York City through photography. This photographic film was one of his most known pieces from his archives. And to give some context, a young Chinese-American asked a police officer to stop hitting a 15-year-old who had been stopped for a traffic violation, and later he was beaten and arrested on the spot for his concern. As a result, thousands of Chinatown residents march in protest of police brutality, similar to the Stop Asian Hate protests that have resurfaced across the U.S. during the COVID-19 pandemic. This photo shows a group of men with their arms chained together, with other people in the back holding up banners saying "End all oppression." Using a wide aperture, the photographer fills the frame with the crowd in order to display the great number of people who attended the rally. Corky Lee also uses a black and white filter to create a balance between the subjects and the background. As a result, the photo creates movement as our eyes first glance at the men in the foreground linking arms, which represents a powerful stance and the fact that they'll not back down, to the background with the banners to show what the protest is about. Overall, I believe Corky Lee did an outstanding job as a documentary photographer in conveying his empowering message, showing the power of unity and passion through standing up for equality.
Our next highlight is Alan Owashi's documentary photo, A Candlelight Vigil. A bit about Owashi is that he believed that media and the arts were the most powerful forms of storytelling. He helped establish Visual Communications, the nation's premier Asian Pacific American Media Arts Center, with the mission to support the voices of Asian American and Pacific Islander artists who empower communities and challenge perspectives. Taken at the front entrance of the Los Angeles Federal Building, Owashi captures a touching moment of the commemoration for the lives lost from the attack on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan. Having shown an impact on the AAPI community, 27 years later on the anniversary date, people continue to come together to honor the lives lost. This photo being taken in 1972, colored photos were quite common, but Owashi chooses a black and white filter to invoke an instant sorrowful feeling. The high contrast photo being rather dark but lit up by the candles elicits a powerful feeling which when combined appeals to pathos, the audience's emotions. There is a clear focal point in the center of the photo being lit with light, so our eyes are immediately drawn there first. With the large depth of field, there's a movement with the first of the front row towards the end of the row, as our eyes take in the amount of candles and amount of people there grieving together. Owashi uses symmetry by being in the center of the row of candles with an even amount of space being filled on each side in order to create a balanced photograph. Through Alan Owashi's knowledge of elements of art and composition, he successfully accomplishes his message of how powerful unity is in times of distress.
This last photo of our curation is from Mary King's collection Diasporic Identities, which illustrates the story of Bhutanese families with refugee status in Austin, Texas. This photo specifically was taken during Rishi Panchami, which is a Hindu festival held every September in worship of the 7 great sages. In this photo, you can see a group of young women who appear to be wearing saris, which is a type of garment worn in South Asia, and they also appear to be dancing outside together, which gives off a cheerful atmosphere. First off, the photographer uses a perspective between eye level and worm's eye view in order to show both the women's dresses and the trees above them. Also, it looks like the photographer used a shallow depth of field, as both the foreground and background are blurred out while the subjects are completely in focus. And altogether, the high contrast and vibrance of the red dresses and green trees, in addition to the focus of the subject's expressions, creates that sense of jubilation. This photo pertains to our theme of unity since it shows how Asian Americans continue to practice cultural customs, and it truly shows how much they rely on their communities as a sort of resilience, especially with other refugee populations, despite the hardships of adjusting to these completely different standards in the U.S. Overall, I believe this work was a success as Mary King was able to capture all these fun moments shared within the Nepali community, and it was very interesting to see how they carry out their traditions. While it may look like a simple photo, I actually think King did a beautiful job in planning the composition and creating an aesthetic piece.
We hope that by presenting a collective theme of unity seen in the Asian Pacific community, we have encapsulated the true beauty of AAPI cultures with justice and have inspired you to make a difference in taking a step forward towards racial equality. Thank you.